Are we seeing the beginning of a new labor movement in the United States? This is a question posed by JT of the YouTube channel Second Thought recently. While the US is widely thought of as the quintessential capitalist state, its workers were not always taken advantage of with little to no bargaining power. Unionization in America was once incredibly common, which led to many labor protections that workers today take for granted, including
child labor laws, the weekend, the 8-hour workday and 40-hour workweek, workplace safety laws, and so much more.
However, those days are long gone, and unionization rates are at some of their lowest levels in American history, as income inequality between executives and employees skyrockets.
Of course, executives never feel the sting of these measures. In fact, their compensation has only continued to grow, to the point where wealth inequality is now just as bad as its peak during the Gilded Age.
So what has led to such a drop in unionization and, despite the signs of increasing rates, an increased amount of attention being directed to worker strikes and several victories for unions as of late, what are the obstacles to a full-fledged labor movement taking hold? When I ask this question, a few answers come to mind. The first, and arguably the most pervasive answer, is the fact that big corporations spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year attempting to crush the power of unions, such as by illegally intervening in union elections or hiring consultant firms that specialize in union avoidance. The reason they're able to get away with these unlawful tactics is because they've bought off the people in government. For instance, Virginia Senator Mark Warner, one of only 3 Senate Democrats who has yet to co-sponsor the PRO Act, a comprehensive piece of legislation that will make it easier to join a union, took a hefty amount of campaign cash during the last election from executives at Amazon, which was recently charged with engaging in union busting. Which brings me to my next answer, the fact that the politicians blocking pro-union legislation from becoming law are either bought and owned by or have conflicts of interest with anti-union and pro-corporate interests. For argument's sake, let's take a look at Arizona Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly, the other 2 Democratic senators not supporting the PRO Act. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is vehemently against the PRO Act, has announced that it will be rewarding Sinema by donating to her campaign for her, quote, opposition to some of President Joe Biden's legislative initiatives and for trying to work with Republicans. Meanwhile, before he was elected to the Senate, Kelly served on the board of Landry's, which forces its employees to sign a forced arbitration agreement, thereby waiving their rights to unionize, for an estimated annual salary of $120,000. These are just a few of the endless amount of examples of how corporate America, particularly the corporations that try to quell unionization efforts at all costs, owns those in power. Additionally, one of the problems holding back a new labor movement is the lack of awareness. A key example of this is a coal miner strike that has been ongoing in Alabama for years, yet has gotten little to no media coverage, as JT explains in the video.
One important union action that's currently ongoing, as of writing the script at least, is the impressive strike by Alabama miners who, along with miners from several other states, traveled all the way to New York City as a group to protest their unfair treatment outside the BlackRock headquarters. BlackRock is the primary shareholder of Warrior Met Coal, which operates out of Brookwood, Alabama. Warrior Met miners have been on strike for over 4 months now, demanding a fair contract after saving the company from bankruptcy. Back in 2016, when Warrior Met was in danger of going under, miners accepted a $6 per hour pay cut to keep it afloat. Since that time, the company has extracted record profits from their operation, netting $309 million in 2019, while the CEO continues to pocket his $4 million salary. All of this is on the backs of the people who actually do the incredibly hazardous, backbreaking, unenviable work down in the mines. Of course, this well-deserved strike has garnered very little mainstream media attention.
The amount of power and influence the media has on public perception not giving this strike attention or coverage hurts its cause, as less Americans are likely to be aware of it, making it harder for these workers' efforts to gain public support. Therefore, the media, by default, is manufacturing consent against the striking workers by not giving them attention. Finally, a key obstacle to a new labor movement is the infighting between unionizing workers. This is nothing new. Similar to union-busting tactics, corporations have stoked divisions within their workforces for years, including between the aforementioned striking Alabama coal workers.
I'm sure there are plenty of fancy business people in New York looking down on the miners as a bunch of rednecks, not only their class enemy, but opposed to their preferred political team as well. While it may be true that many of these Alabama miners espouse right-wing politics in general, If you listen to their own words about the strike, you'll notice there's nothing even the most centrist Republican would support.
By highlighting these differences between workers, including ideology, religion, race, sexuality, etc., big business is trying to get them to focus on going after each other in order to escape responsibility, knowing that they are the common enemy of the workers. In fact, the 1987 drama Matewan, which portrays the 1920 coal miners' strike in the West Virginia town of the same name, characterizes this problem perfectly.
First thing we got to have is all of these and all of these dagos that come in here to take our jobs thrown out of the mine.
Mine's hell. They got them in our houses. They're sitting at our tables right now, and they're sleeping in our beds while we're out living under a piece of canvas at the back of the holler.
You want to be treated like men? You want to be treated fair? Well, you ain't men to that coal company. Your equipment, like a shovel, a gondola car, a hunk of wood brace. They'll use you till you wear out or you break down or you're buried under a slate fall, and then they'll get a new one. And they don't care what color it is or where it comes from. It doesn't matter how much coal you can load or how long your family has lived on this land. If you stand alone, you're just so much those people. You think this man is your enemy? Huh? This is a worker. Any union keeps this man out ain't a union. It's a club. Now they got you fighting white against colored, native against foreign, holler against holler. When you know there ain't but two sides of this world, them that work and them that don't. You work, they don't. That's all you got to know about the enemy.
Despite these roadblocks, there is reason to be hopeful. As JT mentions, during the COVID-19 pandemic, essential workers, particularly healthcare workers, have been able to bargain collectively for better working conditions, wage protection, etc. Additionally, we are seeing more and more workers go on strike, including Nabisco workers recently, and receiving the support of high-profile individuals and celebrities, including actor Danny DeVito. Furthermore, as the video ends, ways in which the public can get involved, such as by joining and or forming local organizations which stand in solidarity with unions, speaking to like-minded fellow community members, and by continuing to express your support for striking workers, are presented to them. Throughout history, we've seen some of the most valuable labor protections be guaranteed thanks to America's working class. If we show solidarity with those fighting to further those protections, and unite against our common enemy, a new labor movement is possible.